Thank you. Jeff is the best public defender DJ ever. Um, we appreciate you, Jeff. I'm just going to introduce Corey, and then Corey, I will turn it over to you. I think I want to start by saying, although Corey is a public defender director of training in Minnesota, she is a complete and dear friend to NAPD. Corey has been actively involved in NAPD all along, but especially since she took this position, I believe right before or right in the beginning of the shutdown. And yet she still continues to volunteer her time to support the efforts of this organization, which means that she supports each and every one of us. And I just want to say publicly, Corey, thank you for all that you do for NAPD and for our NAPD community, and all that you do for men, women, children, and families who are just as involved or directly impacted by the criminal legal system. And so I will turn it over to you to get us started, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Lori. That's really, really kind to hear. And I gotta say, I would not have been able to make it in this new role at the beginning of a pandemic without NAPD. I think the first thing that I did when the pandemic hit was sign up for Jeff's online Train the Trainer, how to create your own online training course. And that was it. So you all have supported public defense, and especially in Minnesota through me and through all of your work. So thank you, right back at you. I want to tell you all a little bit about a day when I happened to be walking to my favorite coffee shop downtown St. Paul near the Pioneer Building. In Minnesota, it is so cold that we have these things called skyways. What they are these little bridges that connect all of the buildings downtown St. Paul and Minneapolis because it is so cold here that school gets canceled. So instead of braving the winters, although we like to perceive ourselves as hardy Minnesotans, we often like to escape up a floor to the skyways and go from building to building and go from, our parking ramp to our favorite coffee shop or to our office or wherever have you. So I know some of you are from warm, beautiful climates like California, and you don't have such things. On this particular day, I was walking to my favorite coffee shop, and I literally walked into Art from the Inside exhibit. And it was an exhibit of artwork that came out of one of our correctional facilities here in Minnesota. And it was a documentary that was playing. There was a screen and there was a documentary playing. There were pieces of artwork put up. And it was one of those moments where I literally walked into an ally that I didn't know that I had. And I know that sometimes public defense and public defenders and defenders can feel alone. And when we walk into those allies, it is especially unexpected allies, it was inspiring. The artwork was inspiring. The mission of the organization was inspiring. And so I wanted to bring it to all of you because I want to inspire you as well. With that being said, I want to introduce to you our panelists, and we're going to showcase some of their work and really talk about the organization, how it gets started, and share their story with you as well. So I'm going to start with you, Jennifer. First, we're going to share a piece of art from Jennifer Marks, who is joining us. Jennifer is a local Minnesota artist, and she works with Art from the Inside. This is one of her pieces. Jennifer, tell us about it.
Well, this was kind of just a quick, I gotta hurry up and draw something piece. What had happened was, I was working in the kitchen when when the Art from the Inside project came about, and I was just about to leave the institution to go on into the work release program. And the lady that brought it to my attention was Miss Sims. She's no longer at Shakopee, but she brought it to my attention that I needed to invest some time into this project because I had donated some art pieces into Black History Month the previous year. And she thought, well, since my art had been so inspiring then, that maybe I could inspire some people with this. And so I said, okay, I'll quickly draw something up really. Just when I say quickly, I mean quickly. This piece took me like an hour and a half, and I drew it and I submitted it, and literally just like what, a day and a half, something like that, before I was leaving. uh, what had inspired this piece was I saw a mermaid in a drawing book, and I said, okay, I'm going to take this mermaid and I'm going to tweak it a little bit, and then I'm going to draw some bubbles around her. But Miss Sims, the woman in the kitchen, she inspired me mostly. Her loving my artwork, and the women in the prison loving my artwork, them telling me and inspiring me to submit artwork for the from the inside.
Yeah. So they saw something in you that maybe you didn't even see in yourself, it sounds like.
Absolutely. That's the thing is people see more in me than I do myself on a daily basis, and especially my art projects. I don't keep a single piece of art. I don't own a portfolio or anything. I draw it. When I draw it for other people.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, I want to introduce everyone to Ricardo Dominguez, and we'll share a piece of his work with all of you. Ricardo, tell us about this.
The jazz player, that was actually, well, the piece influenced me because I love music, first of all, and anybody that has seen my artwork knows that I love color. So this piece actually reminded me of my father-in-law, just the facial features, and he loved jazz music and blues. So I was like kind of doing this piece for him. He kind of inspired me. He had passed away several years now gone by, but it was just when I was in prison, I would think of him, and it was just a piece to remind me of him. And so when I sent it home to my family and I explained it to them, they all loved it. They recognized him, his features on there, and they knew that he loved jazz and blues music, so they loved it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and tell me a little bit about art and what it has meant for you, and how
Art
you
for
came
me,
to art.
yes. I've kind of always been a little bit of an artist. Didn't really start taking it serious until I got in prison. I had a lot of time to invest in putting my energy into artwork and doing that. But for me, art has been everything to me. It's open doors, created opportunities. It's given me an opportunity to still be there for my kids and give them gifts from my hands, some that I've created. And being able to do that for my family, for my kids, and then now having other people appreciate my artwork, has just been such a blessing. And it has changed my life for the better. It really has.
Thank you, Ricardo. And we're going to hear some more about how art came to be and came to be a player in their lives. But now I want to introduce our third panelist, Antonio Espinosa, who created the Art on the Inside project. And Antonio is going to talk a little bit about the project, and we're also going to show an important piece of work from the project before we really launch into how it was born. So let's share that. And Antonio, tell us about it.
About the piece or about the project?
You can do either one.
Well, thank you for having us a part of this awesome conversation with all these folks. Art from the Inside is a very special thing to me. It's so important because my friend was murdered in 2018 at Stillwater Prison, and I needed to do something to create something new in a very dense area. And Art from the Inside was born from his death. And this particular piece here is from a incarcerated guy. His name is Arturo, and he's really good. He's a lifer, a young guy, got in trouble when he was younger, and he's got so many good talents. And I told him all the time. I just kind of recently retired since last year, August of last year, and whenever I had an opportunity to speak with him, I always gave him props for his work. And this particular piece here was bought from a museum. Actually, it was bought from the Museum of American Art. Is one of their pieces now, and I told him that they bought the piece, and he was really excited about it. I'm excited about having the art in spaces where that I never thought it would be. Excited about talking about these amazing people in and out of prison, And, my passion is all about, helping folks who can't talk for themselves while they're in prison, and giving them a space for them to using art just as a tool to have these uncomfortable conversations about incarceration.
It's amazing that it's a way for voices to be heard on the outside, and now it's in the American Museum of Art. It's astounding. What I want to do now is cut to the video clip that we have of the documentary created by Art in the Inside that explains a little bit about the program and how it got legs.
I came in here as a kid. I was pretty young. I was still a teenager. So I still had a lot of developing to do, a lot of maturing to do. And this is a difficult place for someone that young to grow up in, any teenager.
My life got derailed when I was a kid, and I made a lot of bad choices.
Particularly young guys coming in here, they just feel so vulnerable. They got to keep it all tight wrapped in and not show any vulnerabilities. And so I silo just the way that I think about all these little silos all over.
I couldn't grasp it. I couldn't grasp that reality at 16. I just stayed numb.
You start to lose bits of, I guess, just humanity. You start to just go into yourself. You just go further and further and further into yourself, and that can be bad sometimes, especially in a place of isolation.
As I see it, then there's a lot of anger, because anger is the kind of go-to cover-up for it, so you can't express, hey, I'm really worried about my mom, or I'm really sad I'm here, or I really regret. And so it just all becomes anger that comes exploding outwards.
The pain that you've been through kind of shapes how you deal with things, right?
It becomes a battle to maintain that humanity of yourself. So how do you find identity?
Life doesn't stop just because you're locked up. And I realized that hurt people hurt people. Before I was the editor at the Prison Mirror, I was a swamper in the units, and so I would be in the units, and so I would be having conversations, and Officer Espinoza would come into the block and get right into our conversations. Hey, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing?
I'm a Hispanic man from the South Bronx, New York City. I moved out here in 2002 for this job right after 9/11 at Stillwater Prison. And I've been there for 19 years now.
And he just started engaging with us.
And I've been asked, why am I a guard? And I said, because I like to help people.
The guys I'd be talking to, they were short timers, so I'd be like, what are you doing when you get out? And so as soon as he found, he'd like, yeah, what are you gonna do? You gotta be, you can take advantage of all these opportunities out here, and he gets really passionate, he gets really going.
Wow. My thoughts about prison was locking people up, and it's just isolation, locking people up, responding to altercations, fights. That's what I had envisioned in my mind, what I seen on TV. Part of it's true, and the other part is it's not true. I do see something different. I believe that people can transform from who they were to where they want to be and where they want to go in life. That transformation is possible.
Why do you believe that?
Because I'm transformed. I do see that people do change. Within the 19 years I've been there, I've seen people transform in front of me. Like they're different people. And I think that if given the opportunity to give them an opportunity to go back into society, I know that I wouldn't ever see them again. July of 18, 2 years ago, I was watching TV and the news came up that a guard in Stillwater Prison was fatally wounded.
Look inside the investigation of a deadly attack on a corrections officer.
An inmate murdered at the Stillwater prison.
Was my friend gone? And I couldn't believe it. People were quitting, leaving the job the next day, you know. There was more isolation, there was more confinement. They were trying to figure out how to come back from this situation. And ever since that moment that happened, that place hasn't been the same, you know, like it's been like us against them mentality again, but stronger. It's been a rough road. I started thinking to myself, what can I do to...
So Antonio, what I love about that piece is that there was something so tragic happening and your response to it was, what can I do? And that's how this was born. Tell us about it, how you accomplished it and how you sprang into action in the face of that tragedy.
So when that happened, that action happened, since it happened in the industry part of the institution, the powers that be removed all of the different tools for these men to learn different trades. They got rid of all the presses and all the painting and woodwork and everything. They got rid of everything. And, you know, so there was more isolation, there was more people in their cells, there was more, you know, assaults on us because now they're upset. And I was just trying to figure out how I could create a different environment, to think outside of the box, you know, utilize, do something different, you know what I'm saying? And so my wife and I went to Mexico when that same month, and there was a store called Art, an art store in the airport in Cancun, and I started to think about, like, wow, you know, these cats inside the joint, they draw and they paint and they do beads and they're so good at it, you know what I'm saying? You know, since they took away all these opportunities, why can't I try to take their art and put it out into the community and try to sell it? And that's a way for them to try to make $1, you know what I'm saying? And from that moment on, that's where it started to branch out in so many different ways. And, you know, Art from the Inside was birthed from a sacrifice from my friend's life, my thinking was to try to create a better environment, try to bring humanity into it, you know what I'm saying? Trying to make these incarcerated people understand that they have worth, and try to make my coworkers understand that they're not only that they're guards, but they could be teachers and mentors and people to help these folks, you know what I'm saying? And I was just trying to be that person to start something new, and that's just, here we are now, you know? I have these two right here who are awesome people, you know. I really appreciate them, that they're working really hard when they're out and learning new things and learning how to live life, and that's what it's all about. The art is just the vehicle for a conversation, the uncomfortable conversations of incarceration, and how can we as public people and people that have the powers to help folks who are in prison and out of prison to help them through their journey back into society. It's a rough road. I'm sure it's a rough road. So, you know, I'm just a small tool trying to, you know, bring this conversation out to people who want to hear and people who want to do something about it. It helped me.
I loved watching the affinity that, I'm sorry, I forget his name, but the man who was speaking about you and how you would go down the cell block and kind of get in everyone's business and see what they were doing. And you could tell that he had this affection and this affinity for you, who's, you know, working in the prison. And I saw your face when you were watching that video clip. And as soon as you saw his face come on, your face kind of brightened up. And like that's just a really cool thing to see. Jennifer, I'll cut to you. You know, I guess I'll pitch that same thought to you, like that idea, like what can I do and what can I do with art, and how has art been healing for you, and what did it look like for you using your talent while you were incarcerated?
Well, when I first got into Shakopee, I used my art mainly as a hustle. People knew I could draw, so I was doing cards for a bag of kefir or a bag of Folgers, to be honest with you. And it got me through. It got me canteen because I wasn't having anybody help me out when I was incarcerated. People tend to forget about you when you're there. You know, you become invisible to most of the people that you were out there on the streets with. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. So I used art to provide for myself, and it got me through. But then after a while, after I was making big paychecks, you know, $40 every 2 weeks, I was up to $1 an hour as unit maintenance. So I was making the big bucks. I was using art mainly as a form of meditation and transformation. I was able to use it as an outlet for my anger, an outlet for my sadness, and I was able to use it as an outlet for pain. I was putting my pain onto paper, and people were seeing it as a different way though. I was doing portraits. I drew a lot of portraits when I was in prison, and I was putting pain onto paper, but people were taking the portraits and seeing beautiful, and a beautiful image. I couldn't describe it. I was making people cry. I was drawing dead relatives and babies, and I drew a married couple to send out for a friend. And I was putting pain on in my past on paper and giving people beauty, and it was just the most incredible feeling in the world. It made my time go by super fast, to say the least.
I love hearing that. Like, I was putting paint on paper and people found it beautiful.
Yeah.
And you were giving them something that was a concrete gift that they could give to their people on the outside too, which is, you know, for women especially who are incarcerated and away from their children, like to be able to send something to them by way of a gift. Mm-hmm. I dare say that's not a hustle.
I found it to be pretty cool. Like, I had people sending my art out to all over the United States. My art is in so many different homes across the United States. It's so cool. And if I wouldn't have gone to prison, that would have never occurred. It would have never happened. So it's a blessing in disguise.
Thank you, Jennifer. Ricardo, how about you? Tell us. The call, what can you do? What are you doing? How did this save you? Tell me about it.
Art has definitely been a game changer for me. While I was in prison, it kept me out of trouble for the most part. But there's so many different options that I have right now pertaining to art. So many things that I want to do. I want to get into a little bit of fashion, like do my airbrushing on some tennis shoes and sweaters and stuff like that, come up with like a clothing label. But then in the meantime, I have tons of canvases and artworks that I'm doing. I want to do a series, like a theme series. So I have so many ideas, and right now I'm just trying to compartmentalize everything and put them where they got to go. But I'm on the right track. I have my stuff in the museums right now. Art from the Inside has helped me all the way through. They've been backing me all the way through since day one. And yeah, art for me has just been life-changing since prison, and now, even more now that I'm free, I have more opportunities to do this. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be able to do this from prison. But yeah, just to be able to speak to you guys and just let you know that there's people out there that do need the support, and they do need the ear to let other people know that there can be solutions to anything. It could be art related or political. It doesn't matter, but there's ways that we could do things and get things done in this world, and art is one of them.
You know, and as you say that, Ricardo, one of the things that I've been inspired by after, you know, watching the documentary a few times, talking to all of you, is thinking about, like, are there ways that we can bring art through our advocacy? Maybe we should be using our clients' artwork in our sentencing memos. You know, there's got to be ways that we can use this because it's so powerful. So the other, speaking of ways to sort of like use art and bring it to the community and take voices from the inside and bring them to the outside, the second piece that we're going to watch from the documentary is really about the transition from art on the inside and how you all brought it to the community. So we'll look at the second clip now.
Tell me, what are we doing here today?
Oh man, we are showing some art. We are taking photographs of some amazing art that the man in Stillwater Prison have created, and create more. It's a wonderful day. It's a Sunday, and today's the Lord's Day. And we are just getting images of art to have on the website.
That through expression, through this art, you discover things of yourself or face things that you have that you would not otherwise.
That this is a different part of us that most people wouldn't have a chance to see. Art is a form of humanity, and if I send something out there and somebody out there goes to see it at the exhibit and they look at it and they're like, wow, that's beautiful. Well, that alone, I'm the one who did that. That's me in that piece somehow, and you think it's beautiful. So I'm no longer a monster in your eyes. And I no longer look at you as somebody who hates me. It's sort of a softer way. It softens that box that everybody's put in.
Incredibly important, just to be seen for something other than your history, other than your record. You know, and when, you know, for the men involved in it, I mean, there's amazing art that's created here, absolutely amazing, and you know, and the accolades that they get from that, true healing can come.
Yeah, it's cold. It's cold. It's a beautiful piece of artwork. Just love and pain, and I don't know what it is. I just was across the street and I'm like, oh, that's a very interesting piece of art. And then to come over here and read his bio that goes along with the painting, just kind of, you know, to tie in the two. And I'm a Pisces, so we are emotional.
I've been around this area for a long time, and I've got friends who are now on the inside that I think about every day, that I talk to every day, that used to be on the same street, hanging out. So I know that they would like something like this, and they have mediums that they would like to get their voice heard with too. So this is for them as well. So I'm so happy that Art from the Inside is here to tell the story of the people behind bars.
Favorite one of these?
Oh, of Art from the Inside?
Yeah.
Definitely this one right here. The typewriter. I can't stop writing. Because I can't stop thinking, honestly. So it's kind of one and the same.
And I always believe that arts can change people. Arts can inform people, art can inspire people, and can change the world. And no matter where you are, whether you're in a confinement of walls or you're out here, no one can strip your ability to express artistically. I also caught a little piece of one of my fellow Hmong person, and one thing that stand out to me is the cherry in the spoon. Although he put a little blood dripping from the cherry, and that's his art expression. But he's telling people that folks that look like me and him are Minnesotan. And that's what I want to tell folks, that when I see this, I said, whether he's in prison or like me out here, we are Minnesotans.
I love his signature too. We have to just check our humanity and realize that any of us could be where any of them are. We just don't know because our circumstances haven't been theirs. And everybody has a story, and we should start listening to them.
You know, when you start to make art, you start from scratch. You start maybe with nothing. You start with a blank something. And perhaps that's kind of what a lot of people on the inside are looking for, or maybe they're expressing that next chapter of their life through that art. So I think just being able to create something from nothing is, I think it's amazing. I have to assume it inspires hope.
So we're back, and what I think was so beautiful, well, there are so many beautiful things about it, and in fact, I'm looking at the chat and everyone's saying beautiful, inspiring, this is amazing. But I was just really haunted by the first man who spoke, saying that if somebody looks at a piece of my art, then they think that there's a piece of me that is beautiful, and I'm no longer a monster. I'm something beautiful too. And that, you know, I mean, it's heartbreaking to think about the people, you know, and we all see it as defenders too, when like our clients are so bogged down in the shame that like, it's like we want them to move forward. And I think said art softens. So Antonio, can you tell me a little bit about that and how you saw that play out?
He said it all right there. It's like, you know, when I started in 2002, I didn't expect to feel. I just wanted a job, and I wanted to do a work. I needed work, and when I got to actually get involved in the system, and time went on, I got to see people in a different way. People do mistakes and go through their time to pay for their mistakes, but they're still people. And that's the transition time that people need to find out who they really are. And you know, it's not all about punishment. It's about trying to help people realize their mistakes and try to help them, guide them back into society in a different way. So I do understand what he said, because when I said I had transformed, I did, you know, like I totally did. I see people, you know, like been there 15, 20 years and given the opportunity to have an opportunity to come back into society. I think that they will do really excellent and they'll give back to society and they'll do good. But because of their circumstances, they can't. So I've taken the liberty to do this project and give a voice to the people who don't have a voice, and try to bring this information out to the public so that people could start feeling again, instead of feeling angry, start feeling with some humanity in their hearts. Until you are affected by incarceration, either yourself or someone you love or your family member, then you'll understand, what people go through. And I saw that because I grew up in New York in a way where I could have been incarcerated. And, by me doing this, I'm giving back because I know that, there are good people still in prison. And even if you're not going to come out of prison, you can still do good things to show the community that you have goodness in your heart.
Yeah. And can you tell me a little bit? I'm kind of checking out the chat as we're going along, and one person asked a very practical question, like, how practically were you able to get art supplies into the prison, and how were you able to start this program, and what were some of the barriers that you had to overcome to get this up and off the ground?
A lot of the times, the artists in Shakopee, they don't have a art class.
So, and if you don't mind, I'm just gonna, for the audience, Shakopee is our women's facility, and then Stillwater is the men's facility. So sorry, go ahead, Antonio.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So Shakopee, they don't have a art class. I believe that they purchase their art through a vendor called Dick Blick, which everybody does in the state. And, they do their artwork that way and they pay for it themselves. In Stillwater, there's an art class, but it's like 15 guys max. And there's like tons of artists throughout the institution. They do all kind of stuff, tattooing, which they're not supposed to be doing tattooing, but they do tattooing too. Yeah, Ricardo. Ricardo, yeah, be quiet. Don't say no. Ricardo is a good artist. I never caught him, but
But now, Ricardo, you're doing it for real, right? Like you're tattooing on the outside now.
Yes, I just bought a tattoo gun. Yeah, so I'm tattooing out here now. Yeah, everything is art related. Everything I'm doing is art related.
Yeah. So like getting art supplies in there is up to them. We Art from the Inside have been fortunate enough to get some grants, and the grants allow us to pay the artists just for being an artist. And then, gives the artist the opportunity to put their art for sale. And Mr. Dominguez here, he last year was the highest seller. He sold over $800 worth of art sales. And, and that's the only way how I see to try to create a different environment. I'm trying to let these people, when I say these people, the Department of Corrections and the lawmakers and the people who create these laws, that there's different ways of trying to help people. And what you've been doing all these years probably hasn't been working. You got to think of doing something outside of the box and take chances and being creative with what's going on today in this world. You got to do a pivot and think differently, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
With their art and their voices.
And the fact that it's in a public space, I mean, that's what's so great, because it's one thing for people to be doing it inside, right? But then, well, I guess I'll shift it back to you, Ricardo or Jennifer. Like, what is it like for you to see your pieces of art and other people's pieces of art up on buildings and in the middle of a skyway and in the Museum of Modern Art?
Yeah. Real quick for me, my kids got to go down there and see my pieces downtown St. Paul at the creator space. So when they sent me a picture, SB sent me a picture of my kids standing next to my artwork, and that right there was just awesome. That right there, that was that was a touchdown right there. That was it. You know what I mean? That was everything right there. To see my kids and other people from my community, my cousins and them, just to be able to go to an art gallery and say, that's my brothers or that's my cousin, that's my dad's. That was awesome right there. That meant everything to me.
Yeah, and that was while you were still incarcerated, is that right?
Yeah.
So you
Yes.
were able to see a picture of your kids being proud of you.
Very, yes. Yeah, that was awesome.
I have melty heart now.
You know,
That's
just being there, and for me, my experience, because my experience is going into work and dealing with these folks, right? But now I'm dealing with their family. I'm dealing with the public. The public is reacting like it was my art. So no, read between the lines. Where's this coming from? They're like, wow, these guys are really talented. I said, yeah, you know, people make mistakes, but they have talent. And the families are just so grateful for the opportunity and you know, the kindness and the thoughtfulness of what you're doing. And that's what I think that we kind of forget, you know, that we are human, that we all make mistakes, that we all need second chances, third chances. I know I needed them in my day, and my days are not over. I might need another second chance. You know what I'm saying? So giving grace to people is so important, because you never know what's going to happen to you tomorrow.
Hey, Jen, one of my favorite things about you is where you learned how to make art. Can you share that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, okay, so I grew up learning art. I started at a young age. My grandmother is an art teacher. So I started going over to her house as a young girl every summer for 2-week periods at a time. And she taught me how to draw. She taught me how to paint. She brought me into a church as a young girl, and she painted murals all over every single basement wall in the church. And I would just watch her and enjoy every wall. And she also did plays at a college in Rochester, and she did all of the art for plays there as well. So I'd go to these plays and I would just watch every scene and every setting for these wonderful plays, and I just get to watch her art. And I have several paintings in my apartment that are hers, and I have them hung up. That's the majority of my artwork in my home is hers. So I don't know. My favorite artist is my grandmother. Her name is Charlotte Marks. I'm just a sucker.
I love that. And that's how I learned it. I asked all of them, who is your favorite artist and who inspired you? And when Jen said it was her grandmother and told that story, I just thought it was so cool. And it's like, it's a way for you to connect with your ancestors as well, and the people, others in your life, and to keep that connection, you know, no matter where you are, nobody can take that from you. I think that was something that somebody else mentioned in the, you know, one of the video clips. Nobody can take that from you. Ricardo, who's an artist that inspires you?
Several. I was influenced by a lot of Mexican Chicano artwork just growing up in my neighborhood, and on the West Side is really renowned for that. But Diego Rivera for sure, and Salvador Dali, just their flavors of Salvador Dali. I like him because he was a lot of abstract work, just really odd, trippy stuff. I like that. And then Diego Rivera, because he would make like political paintings that would have a meaning behind them, but it was really not very realistic, detailed, but it was very crisp and clear. But it was very awesome work, and it had a meaning behind everything that he did, and it reflected a part of my culture too when I was learning about the artist and all of that. So they had an influence on my just getting interested in art for one, and just influenced me as an artist and as a Mexican American artist.
Thank you. Yeah. What about you, Antonio? Who inspires you?
Well, as an artist, I'll have to say Bryan Stevenson. He's not an artist when it comes down to painting, but he's an artist with he's incredible with his knowledge and his speaking and his everything that I've been learning about Mr. Bryan Stevenson. You know, I'm just like floored with this man. I was out in Charlotte, Montgomery. I was at Montgomery. I went to Montgomery to see his museum and meet him, and it left me motionless. It left me like I couldn't understand what was going on, and I was really upset because of all the different things, which is true. These things happen, you know, but the way how he was able to, his team were able to, you know, get this all hooked up and show it to the public was awesome. So Brian Stevenson is my artist.
And I think that we could all probably agree, Antonio, that you are also an artist for conceiving and conceptualizing of this and creating these public spaces.
I'm just a tool. I think the true artist is my Father in heaven. You know, we have to have a faith in trying to look at each other as human beings and help each other out when we need to, when you need the help. And my Father in heaven is the one that's been painting me. So thanks.
The last thing that I want to kind of let you guys all weigh in on is, like, what do you think we as defenders need to know? What do we need to know about art and about you and about the what do we need to know? Oh, Ricardo, you're muted, sorry. Oh, you're still muted, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I'll just kick it off. I think that and the just rehabilitation in prison right now all over the country is horrible. You know what I mean? There's not enough programming. The COVID really just did a huge amount of damage on the prison system because the lack of outside resources. So when guys are getting released now, they don't have classes that do any resume making anymore. Because prior to the COVID, they used to have classes that would prepare you to get released from prison. Now, during this pandemic in the last few years, they're just kicking guys out because they don't have those outside resources available to come into the prisons and help train people how to make resumes and cover letters and stuff like that. So outside resources definitely need to get back into the prisons when they lift the COVID restrictions, 1. 2, we need more funding from the state just to give us more programming for when prisons are released from prison. More options, more jobs available. There's just tons and tons of stuff that needs to be done just with the legal system, period. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know, I'm gonna be honest. I see the legal system in America is a business. Prison is a business. You know what I mean? And it's designed to set you up for failure. We have a huge recidivism rate, you know what I mean? Because guys are left minimal options, you know what I mean? So if you don't give anybody the options to progress or to benefit themselves, then they're just going to revert back to what they know how to do. So art has been a way for me to come up out of that and take my life in another direction.
Well, let me say on behalf of most of us here, we do know what you mean. And, you know, we are with you on that. What about you, Jen? What do we need to know?
I agree with Ricardo on all of those things. Taking the release planning out of the prison systems was an awful idea. I didn't have any release planning at all, so I was released with nothing. I barely knew where I was going on work release. I was given that information literally a few days before I was released, so it was a shock. It was a shock coming out here. But I figured it out pretty quickly, thank God. I had a good support system. Thanks. I had a good support system, and I have a good support system now. And my job is a good support system. I have Tech Dump is a great place to be. Thank God I found Tech Dump. But I believe that Shakopee needs some form of an art class or something implemented where more programming. There's not enough programming in Shakopee in general. I feel like the men's prisons are 100% different than the women's prison. It's insane how many differences there are. And I know that men are different than women, and there are a lot more men that are incarcerated than the women, but programming is necessity. And it's therapeutic. Art is very therapeutic and it's very important. And I believe even something as simple as like yoga or gym, even anything along those lines would be great. Just programming in general should be looked into. It's super important, and I feel it would have been more beneficial to have anything along, like even right now during the COVID, outside time.
Yeah.
Something. I was quarantined 8 times when I was in Shakopee, and so I was like around 8 months of downtime in my cell, and I would have given anything to be able to be outside for just a minute. So I feel like there's a lot of depression happening right now in the prison systems. I'm surprised there hasn't been more suicide attempts. I'm surprised there hasn't been more behavioral patterns, more fights, more riots. I'm surprised there hasn't been more outbursts in the prison systems during the COVID in the United States. So there needs to be help. They need help in there right now. There's too many lockdowns. There's too many quarantines. They don't have good systems for the COVID. I feel like they don't know what they're doing. They're not taking our mental health into consideration.
I think, yes, COVID has made everything so much more difficult, and it was already difficult before.
Right.
And, we need to find a way through it, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt like, we were already treated like we were a disease, some number or a disease when we were in the prison. And when the COVID hit, it became 50 times worse. It was.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and I just have to say on behalf of, I guess, the community, I'm sorry. Ricardo, or sorry, not Ricardo, Antonio, I know that we are about to wrap up. The last thing that we were going to do to close out was to hear from Roberto and showcase his piece. Roberto created a piece from inside. He is currently serving a life sentence in Stillwater Prison. He created this piece for us for this conference while he's been incarcerated. So we are showcasing it for you. It is being part of a silent auction. You can scan the QRC there to go to see the auction site. Even if you're not intending to bid on this piece, I would encourage you to go and scan this document and take a look at the piece, because he wrote a beautiful paragraph kind of explaining his thought process and explaining his thoughts about laws and men. And it was beautifully written, and it gave me a lot to think about. So even if you're not thinking about participating in the auction, it's worth reading his thoughts. And even though Roberto can't be here with us today, I want to publicly thank him, along with all of you, for all of the artwork that you've done, all of the thinking outside of the box that you've done, your contributions to the conference, your contributions back to public defense by being here and sharing everything with us and giving us inspiration and hope. So I want to thank all of you for that. Lori, do we have time for a last quick video clip of Roberto, or should we end? We do. All right, perfect. So we're going to finish off with a clip from Roberto, who again can't be with us today, but this is his piece and we want to honor him.
Through my art is how I'm able to express things that I don't know the words to. Because of the situation that I'm in, we become so desensitized and detached from our emotions in order to survive or make it. So in a way, art helps me stay connected with myself and what I'm truly feeling, and project it into a canvas or a piece of paper. it just feels nice to know that people appreciate my work, that they take the time to go and see it and comment on it. So in a way, it gives me a form of validation. It gives me a purpose. And hearing what they have to say is actually very touching, because sometimes they understand you without even meeting you, just based on what they see. And that lets me know that art is helping me stay in touch with who I truly am and my inner self. Art has been a big part of my changing process. It provided me, like I've said it many times, a purpose, something to do, something worth doing, something that impacts others. Like, let's say they're going through something, a simple drawing can lift their spirit. So that has impacted me in a way that I want to get out and live life, explore, travel, see the world, see its beauty, to inspire more artwork from me, and live life to the fullest, not take things for granted. He provides a way to be out there in a way, in a sense, although it's not me, but it is my work. If my life is a canvas, then it's up to me to find the proper paint that I want to do and create my own masterpiece of myself.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. You can also find all the information in our Sketch app as well. If you want to go and visit the website and buy art and buy print, and also, of course, participate in the auction. Thank you all so much for being here. The thank yous are coming into the chat. I know it's been pretty busy. Hopefully you've been able to keep up with the comments. Antonio, it went off the charts with your Hope Dealer t-shirt sighting. Everybody's like, where can I get that t-shirt? We thank you for your gifts. We thank you for sharing your journeys with us. And Corey, we thank you for bringing this amazing panel together, and to, again, open our eyes to an area where we can participate and change. We could be hope dealers with Antonio now as well, in a different way and in a different arena. And we thank God for your gifts. I thank God for your